Welcome back. And among the interventions to curb gender-based violence and femicide, President Cyril Ramaphosa's GBVF response fund announced it would look into wearables and apps to help tackle the scourge. The SA Women Fight Back is slamming this. The organization's founder, Bronwyn Litkie, joins me now to explain. Good morning, Bronwyn, and thank you very much for your time. You say the latest program by the GBVF response fund is ridiculous. Why exactly is this?
Because it's all been done before. We've got apps like Namola. The Vodacom Foundation released an app called Bright Sky. SA Women Fight Back have tried to do an app, and it doesn't work. There's so many areas in South Africa and so many impoverished people that do not have access to data, do not have access to cell phones. Are these people just completely scrapped from the list? And it just, in moments of an emergency, the last thing you're thinking about is where's my phone to push a button, I just don't think that they are forward thinking. And the other thing is, who's on the other end of the app? Is it the police that are responding? Because the police are, they don't have the proper resources, they don't have the proper training. So I feel that we actually need to be starting at the core of things and be focusing on getting the police more resources and proper training, getting proper victim support rooms, getting more counsellors on the ground. These are the things that they should be starting with and not thinking about apps. I just don't think it's money or time or resources spent very well.
So you think there's no potential there to perhaps refine this innovation, because they're not only talking about the apps on cell phones, something that is wearable, be it a watch, a bracelet. You're thinking the reality is somebody will have to man them on the other side, and we just don't have the capacity.
Exactly. They have to think who is manning it on the other side. I mean, this was with SA Women Fight Back where our app fell short, is that we just didn't have the resources or the response that was needed for these victims.
Do you find that the response fund basically attempts to have dialogue with some of your organizations? Are you finding that in most instances, being a structure that is funded by government predominantly, do they avail themselves to get some of these suggestions from other structures such as yours?
Look, we were invited to a meeting to be run through the GBVF fund, which was, very interesting to see what their plans were. But we don't actually know, I don't personally know of one organization that has received money from the GBV fund. And we have actually asked for a list a number of times because, I know between us and Tears and Women for Change, Jason, brethren from Jason's Angels, we're all running on the skin of our teeth, Funds are few and far between. So we've been asking for the list so that at least we can start maybe filtering off victims to places that actually have the funding to be able to help them. But it's fallen on deaf ears. We haven't received anything yet.
Are you aware of the criteria? Because we've had them before. It seemed the criteria itself was a bit sketchy, even on the day when we did interact. What exactly is the criteria? Because when you speak of the Tears Foundation and yourselves, perhaps it's because you are bigger, more known foundations where they would just be reluctant to fund those and think maybe they're going to fund that obscure little foundation in a village. But are you certain of the criteria?
Sure. Look, if it's an obscure little foundation, that's SA Women Fight Back. I mean, we've got a massive Facebook group and following, but we do not have one funder. We run entirely on volunteers. We all work remotely. We don't have an office or anything like that. While Tears is big, then you look at Jason from Jason's Angels, who's doing fantastic work on the ground, but it's just him and his wife doing this work. So, I mean, even if it is the smaller foundations, we were not recognized when we made the application.
No, it's very concerning. We most certainly must have them on again to find out exactly what is the criteria. But beyond this, you say that government just needs to put stricter laws in place. Will these actually serve as a deterrent, or what we're really looking for is the enforcement of the current legislation?
Enforcement of the current legislation, I think we've been talking in circles. In the news just the other day, there was an article about the drop-off of GBV cases. Our victims can't take it. Some cases are going on for 3 years for a rape, and they've got to go back to court over and over and over again and face the accused. Some cases just drop off and they just don't hear from anybody anymore. If they think that the evidence is just not there, their investigating officers just will stop contacting people. The cases need to be dealt with more swiftly, and SAPs. I mean, we give SAPs a hard time, but these guys are working like they're completely understaffed. They don't receive the right training. Half of the victim support rooms at police stations aren't even functional. So if you as a victim go into a victim support room, some of them don't even have beds or chairs to sit on. The counselors are minimal. So some women, if you're going into the police station and you're now reporting a GBV crime, you've got somebody behind the counter that's not trained to be dealing with these crimes. They'll deal with it insensitively when it should actually be going directly to somebody who's got GBV training and knows the right processes to take, takes the evidence correctly, and offers counsel, because obviously this crime is incredibly traumatic for our victims. And I can't tell you how many women walk into the police station, are treated badly within the first 5 minutes, and they leave, and nothing ever gets done, which means that these perpetrators are still walking our streets.
And they can
and then it
commit the
also
same
comes
crimes.
back to Exactly. And then it comes back to people getting parole. I mean, the Tasneh van Wyk story is an exact example of that man should never have been walking the streets, ever. His rap list was ridiculous for GBV crimes, and somehow somebody thought he deserves to be let out. If you're a repeat offender, there is life with no parole, in my opinion, because most people will go back to doing the same crimes again.
Bronwyn, we clearly have a lot of problems, but I gather from you that it's just back to the basics. The innovation now, technological innovation, really doesn't help. You're saying just capacitate the police, and we see enforcement of the current legislation that we have. Thank you very much for your time. That's
100%.
SA Women Fight Back founder Bronwyn Litkie. To the Western